Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni.
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown, ISB.
Yes. 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! And Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Now, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you here on this Thursday. Jim Coyle with you. Don't forget, Indiana Sports Beat Radio powered by Andy Moore Honda Bloomington. Just go to andymoorehonda.com to get more to your door, and Free Think Apparel, whether it's 24 t-shirts or 20 or 200 for your softball league coming up. Free Think is the place to turn. Their team of industry experts works with you to design a professional-looking sales-generating web store for your custom-designed apparel. Whether you're a large corporation, high school sports team, or a national account, pro-led camps, Free Think Apparel delivers. Visit freethinkapparel.com today and get printing. Hello, everybody, and welcome aboard. Looking forward to another great show, a packed dais, as Shannon Griffith will join us. Tyler Smith from thehoosier.com will get you caught up on the transfer portal, comings and goings. Chris Denari as well. We've got lots to talk about. The NCAA games return tonight. Louisville gets a new coach. Caitlin Clark with a massive offer. A former Syracuse guard arrested as a mule for P. Diddy. NCAA football looking at new kickoff rules to follow the NFL. And tomorrow, the 134th opening day for the Cincinnati Reds. So a hodgepodge of sports going on, man. It's all happening, and it's all happening now. How's everybody doing? Thanks a lot for joining us. We appreciate each and every one of you, no matter how and where you're listening. Our good friends on 97.7 The Ref, ESPN, always the right call, down in Evansville, up in the region on 1230 AM, 104.7 FM, WJOB, the voice of the region, and 1380 The Fan, Fort Wayne's only sports station. Appreciate everybody all over, and of course, everybody listening across the masses on YouTube and wherever else. Hello to everybody on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. Brian, Fred, Michael, Donald, Brian, keep going down the line. Doug, Shenanigans, Buffalo Bill. And we're going to check the standings, right? We haven't done that yet. So the first full week is in the book of the standing of the NCAA tournament. So who's leading the ISB NCAA tournament pool pick? Well, Herbal's at the top. Ethan. It's a familiar name up there. Right behind him is a name I do not recall from last year's. Dale Buffkin, 15 is his handle. But Bill O, man, he's good at making picks. He's backed up there again and tied for second. A pretty tight race. Travis is in that pool. No, he's one spot behind. But what I like about that, 3 out of the top 4 people all have different teams winning the national championship. One has Connecticut, or 2 have Connecticut. One has Purdue. One has Houston. So cool to see 3 different picks in the top 4 right now, because that means everything's still going at it. Where's Jim, you ask? Oh, my. You'd have to dig deep. I forgot about even looking for me the other day until I stumbled upon it by going way down. My brackets got blown up the first day, but man, it is a page is full of them, and we'll keep up on that as that continues tonight. The NCAA tournament picks right back up. We'll get to that. Louisville gets its coach in Pat Kelsey. John, I'm sure you're been hearing a lot about that. And
yeah, that was the big topic of conversation yesterday afternoon. I know we talked yesterday on this show that it was likely coming down to Pat Kelsey and Richard Pitino, and College of Charleston's Pat Kelsey ended up being the guy, and he appears to be very enthusiastic about the job, to say the least. If
why would you not be? It's a hell of a rise.
Jobs in the sport, so it's an interesting hire. Not somebody that anybody, except for maybe Jeff Goodman, expected. A few months ago, Jeff Goodman went on the other show that I worked on in the afternoons, and he mentioned Pat Kelsey. That was the first thing that came out of his mouth. And what do you know? Lo and behold, he is the new head coach at Louisville.
Well, I mean, I'm sure he was in the pool of credible candidates. But what I'm finding more enjoyable is all of the shenanigans that have gone on around this Louisville job hunt. And I found out a little bit more of that by reading yesterday. And I'm surprised you haven't mentioned this. A different radio host in Louisville made a big time slip up, and it inadvertently or mistakenly had said that in talking to Josh, is it Josh Hurts, right?
So yeah, he was talking to Josh Schertz, yes. And the radio host was.
And in that conversation, he said that in a conversation that Josh had with Dusty, that he didn't take the Louisville job because of death threats, which was totally erroneous. Erroneous on both counts. If you're a fan of the movie Wedding Crashers.
Yeah, the reason I didn't bring that up yesterday is just mainly because I thought I would explain it incorrectly. But yeah, that is something that we discussed a few days ago as well. And I won't say that person's name who we're discussing, but it is another radio host in the city of Louisville who kind of just casually threw out death threats. And I was
like, whoa, what?
You can't just say that this day and age and not realize that that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, no. It's just wild. But I also heard something else. Now, this is not corroborated in any way, but I'm not surprised. I heard Louisville had posters made up of Dusty May. They have their own printer. It was that deep.
I mean, I think the biggest sign of everything was the fact that they had chairs set up for a press conference in the KFC.
Yeah, that was a fact. That was a fact. And they took him down, of course, because I think Rick said that on the air yesterday, right? That they took him down.
Yes.
So that was kind of funny. But yeah, just hilarious. But that shows you how close that situation actually was. I mean, it's not a done deal until it's a done deal. I always say that, but that was as close to being a done deal as most coaching searches get before he was flipped at the last second. So great stuff there. Just cracks me up. How about Caitlin Clark getting an offer? Not just an offer, an offer for $5 million to play in Ice Cube's Big 3 League. She would be the first woman to play in that. It says it's also an opportunity to further grow the women's game by doing that. I'm wondering if she doesn't take them up on this. I think she's nuts. That is a gigantic. That is more. That has to be equal to upwards of 13 years of a WNBA salary. I mean, what's the max in the WNBA? Like 350? 350,000 a year? It's upwards of that. but she's going to make so much money in endorsements in the Indianapolis area, nationally, that the salary is almost irrelevant. But there are plenty of other athletes where the bulk of their money has not come from their salary. Now, this one's a little maybe ironic, but do you know who I would bet he's still the wealthiest former NFL player, I think, is still Roger Staubach. Nothing to do with the salary that he made in the NFL, because they didn't make jack squat when he played. But he became a realty mogul. He's worth like upwards of $750 million now. One would never guess that. But that's how it is. Tonight, the NCAA returns, baby. We've got games. How about this former Syracuse guard, Brendan Paul, being arrested and charged with being a mule for Sean Puff Diddy Combs? Just sometimes, even when I think that I can't be surprised, I get surprised. It's crazy. It's crazy. Hey, Seattle won the CBA title, as if someone cared somewhere. But it did happen in Daytona Beach. That had to be fun. Cameron Tyson scored 30 points, made 7 3-pointers. Alex Schumacher scored 16 of his 22 in the second half. His third-seeded Seattle University closed on an 11-0 run to beat top seed High Point. That's what happens in the CBI. Teams that you have no idea who they are. And I don't want to say that we don't care, but is there someone here that does care? Crickets? Yes, John?
Oh,
time to take a break already. Man, mercy,
me. I know.
Good Lord. I cannot believe how fast that opening segment flies. But we've got so much more coming up. Thanks a lot for being with us. Back with Shannon Griffith from Hoosier Tailgate. We're talking some football and the new kickoff rules that probably coming to you in a city close to you. Back with more. Brought to you by Andy Moore Honda and Free Think right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market.
Good morning, Shannon.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
Is there any way you can let me see.
Can you hear me now?
Let me see if I can adjust your microphone. Say something else.
Test 1, 2, 3.
It sounds. What are you using to call in, Shannon?
Well, I tell you what. I'm on my.
Oh, you're on nothing. You're on.
Did we
nothing.
lose you?
I'm liking it.
Try that again, Shannon. If you can hear me.
I can switch to Chrome here. Give me a second. I'll come back.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, he's on the road today. He emailed me earlier, mentioned he'll.
Yeah, I saw it. He's on the road again. Just can't wait to get on the road again. Well, I thought my voice was better, but it doesn't sound any better.
Oh. All right, let's try this out. You got us, Shannon?
Yeah. Can you hear me better now?
It's the same. Honestly, I think I had it pretty good when I adjusted your volume. I'm probably gonna end up doing that. Say that again for me. Talk again.
Test 1, 2. 1, 2, 3.
All right, I think we can make that work. I think we're good.
You're good? I can try something else here and disconnect from my, the Bluetooth on my car.
That actually could be the issue. I didn't realize you were hooked up to Bluetooth.
Well, I'm in my car.
Yeah.
Let me see something here real quick, okay?
Okay, that's fine. We're about to be coming back from break, so if that doesn't work, we'll just go with what we've got.
All right, hold on here 1 second.
Okay.
Trying to navigate my...
Say something else.
Test 1, 2, 3.
That's not bad. We can go with that.
Okay,
right,
hold on here because I can't hear you as well.
This segment is brought to you by
But
the
of course,
Chop
I'm at
Shop,
no place
home
to
of the
pull.
Indiana football
I'm not
and
no
men's
place to
basketball
pull over.
coaches shows. All right, I'll just wait until he's ready. I'll just cut this out.
Or mute him.
Okay. But I can't know when he's ready if he's muted. You know what I mean?
Well, we don't have to give him a choice.
All right. We'll just have to keep rolling. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Thursday. Welcome, of course. Shannon Griffith joins us now from Hoosier Tailgate. And normally not a ton to talk about in regards to football this time of year, but there is a pretty substantial rule change that's probably going to happen. It has already taken place in the NFL, and that is a model, ironically, off of the XFL, which rare is the case that the NFL follows a lower level league, but that is simply the case. Shannon, how are you doing, sir? Great to hear that. That's a joke. I didn't hear that, but we'll get him back on here. But yeah, there is a rule change that's going to be happening in regards to the kickoff, mainly because they want to eliminate injuries. And that happens because mainly you've got guys who get a full head of steam running full bore down the field, but also because touchbacks have increased so much that the kickoff is almost becoming irrelevant. And, there's some people that say, oh, I just take it away. And, that's a possibility, but you then take away the potential electrifying plays of long kickoffs for touchdowns. So, but we'll see how that goes. Shannon joining us now. How you doing, brother?
All right. First of all, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Hey, we're talking about Shannon's traveling right now today, so he's not in the studio. So well, bear with it. It's not a big deal. Hey, I'm talking about the new potential change or probably assured changes that are going to be coming on the kickoff. They've already happened for the NFL, or it's already in the process of happening. And the college game they're probably going to follow suit.
Well, it all signals back to trying to bring the kickoff return back into play as an actual play, because as it is right now, you're just running 11 bodies of a kickoff team to run down the field because the kicker kicks it out of the end zone. So now they're going to try to give it some.
Yeah, give it some more pizzazz. As like I said, the touchbacks numbers have just gone up each year, which is making it pointless. And then on the other side of it, you have the injury issue of having guys run full speed at somebody and having the guys run full speed back at them. I was on the kickoff teams, punt teams, and all that stuff. I remember. But the worst thing about that is you're running full speed, and if you're running towards the returner or whatever, and you get someone gets a good crackback block on you, whoo, you want to talk about lighten up your world. Holy moly. It will do just that. And this would eliminate that. What's going to happen is they're going to move. The kicking point will remain at the same place. A touchback is going to be moved out to the 30, though, which I don't know why that would I'll take the ball at the 30 almost all the time if I have an option. I mean, that's a pretty daggone good starting spot, especially as opposed to the 20 or the 25, whatever the case may be. And but they're moving the defenders up to the opposition's 40-yard line. So I'm not really sure how that's going to increase the kickoff returns. You're not moving the kicker. To me, you have to move the kicker back to put the ball in play. Now, maybe not in college, but I don't know. It still seems like if you're moving the defenders forward, you're encouraging. There will not be any more fair catches. That's what it is. They're going to take the fair catch portion of it out, which did not used to be a part of the kickoff, but then it was added. But that would be removed. So all kinds of stuff going on there to work on. Whether or not that has an effect, we don't know what that would be, but we'll certainly find out and keep tabs on that. And hopefully Shannon can jump on here with us. You've got the spring game coming up in it's still 3 weeks away as spring practice continues to go on for college football programs around the country, including Purdue, Indiana, those throughout the Big Ten as well. And wouldn't it be cool if there was a spring game? Nobody would ever do that. I don't mean against yourself. And no one would ever do that for fear of injury. Everything is for fear of injury now. Didn't used to be that way, but a lot of things didn't used to be that way, and there's no point in saying that because you cannot live in the past for anything. I think that happens way too often. While there are a lot of things that would be nice if they were the way they used to be, you cannot live there, and because there are always improvements. So, Russell, thank you. Russell says the voice sounds much better today. I can't tell because it feels it sounds about the same to me. Michael, how are you, sir? Derek jumping on from down in Owensboro. Yes, he does. Brian talking about Herbal leading the NCAA tournament pool again. So I wonder if I can pull up his bracket. Oh, yes, I can. So who plays tonight? Today is Thursday.
I'll go ahead and I was looking at these games earlier because I was lining up a little parlay for myself. But Clemson and Arizona will get things rolling.
Wait a minute, hold on. You become a little betting fool.
I do bet quite a bit during college basketball and college football, but I don't just bet random stuff outside of those sports just because I don't know anything. I'm
not opposed to betting. Number one, I don't ever think about it. Literally, very, very, very rarely. Maybe in football season when you got more time between games, but man, there's so much going on.
And I make very small
about
bets. Like I don't bet usually more than a few bucks per bet.
Well, all right, we're going to talk about this, who's playing tonight, but also prop bets. That is something that the NCAA once banned.
I saw that.
And we'll talk, but we'll be talking about that. As a matter of fact, that's one of the things that JD Campbell was going to be coming on today with us. Most recently, you knew him as the media relations director for men's basketball at Indiana. But unfortunately, he got sick. So he's hopefully going to join us tomorrow, but we'll talk more about that. And so there are all a lot going on there. But tonight, who is playing? What are there, 4 games tonight?
Yeah, 4 games in the Sweet 16 and then 4 tomorrow as well. Clemson and Arizona tip off at 7:09. San Diego State and UConn tip off at 7:39. Alabama and North Carolina tip off at 9:39. And Illinois and Iowa State will start at 10:09. Interesting tip-off times.
And yes, because it won't start at 10:09. First of all, it'll be a little bit later than that. So you're already well past midnight when that game ends. I'm not wanting to stay up past midnight during a weekday. It was glorious last night. I didn't watch any of the NIT games. I'm like, I'm going to bed, and looked forward to it. But the number 1 ranked and overall seed UConn Huskies taking on San Diego State, a finalist for last year's NCAA tournament in the Final Four. Kind of interesting there as they play at 7:40 this evening. So you got that going for you.
That is one of the games I am betting on. I'm taking UConn to cover the 11.5 point spread.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I mean,
they've won handily so far in both of their games, beating the spreads very easily both times. So, I mean, doesn't mean they'll do it again, but I have reason to think they could.
I'm trying to figure out what I think would be the most entertaining game, and that.
Oh, I think it has to be Illinois, Iowa State at the end of the night.
Oh yeah,
you have one of the most high-powered offenses against one of the most high-powered
biggest defense. Yeah, there you go. You got that
and
right.
That's the other leg of my parlay. I'm taking Illinois money line. The spread is Iowa State -1.5. I'm just going to take Illinois to win. So we'll see what happens with
probably
those.
Not bad. North Carolina takes on Alabama, the high-flying Crimson Tide with no defense. I think it's going to have to be a bad night for North Carolina not to win that game, because Alabama is just, like I said, they rely on offense more than anything. Get those 3-point shots. And North Carolina is a more balanced team. Pardon me, I'm going to sneeze.
That's all right. Sometimes you got to let the germs out. You got to feel better. Get all the mucus
trying
out
to
of
get
the
them
system.
out. Trying to get them out, man. It's been amazing. But yeah, so you got that going for us tonight, which is nice. Let me get back. And then Clemson, Arizona, also happening. That could turn out to be a really good game. Clemson obviously playing pretty well. They beat Baylor to get where they are. Number 3 Baylor, who was my Final Four team. They won that game 72-64. Before that, they trounced Richard Pitino and New Mexico 77-56. Now, after Richard Pitino did not turn out to be the guy in Louisville, does he just stand pat and stay where he is? I don't know what all jobs are still open yet, but
I think he'd be wise to stay in New Mexico, because this was really his first year of true success at New Mexico, and he can build off of that and potentially land, a good opening next year, because all the really big openings are probably done for this season.
The FAU position has been filled by a Baylor assistant. So they didn't take long. It's amazing. They didn't take long at all to fill that spot. So pretty cool about that. The transfer portal watch, we'll get into that when Tyler Smith joins us. But there's a lot of buzz around that 2024 McDonald's All-American.
Bryson Tucker.
Tucker. I can just tell you that Indiana feels very good about their situation with him. From one source from inside the program, that means they feel very, very good. We'll see how that one turns out. It'll be interesting to see, but I'm curious on why is a 5-star McDonald's All-American still uncommitted? You usually don't see that. But it's there. And then the rest, I expect the remaining 6 spots, if that were to become the case, I would expect to be filled with transfers. Mike Woodson needs experience. They're not. They haven't shown a penchant for developing freshmen. Khalil Ware obviously made a huge jump, but he's also a 7-footer. So the guard spot has been a little. It hasn't exactly yielded a ton of fruit from a development standpoint thus far. Let's say that. Khalil Ware, I absolutely just do not expect to be back after he declared for the NBA draft. That does not mean he cannot pull his name back out. But I just don't. I think he's going to. The mocks have him going. I think he's going to go. And it cracks me up, and I see it all the time. It doesn't matter what the program is. The fans are always the same. When I see someone that says he's not ready, or I don't think he's ready, guess what? I stopped saying that a long time ago. Do you know why? Because I know that my opinion on that don't mean diddly do, as was it Jim Mora that said that in that famous spot? Playoffs, they haven't done diddly do. But the GMs of the NBA teams, they decide if somebody is ready. If they're going to offer them or draft them in the first round, they have the confidence that you're either ready in their estimation or you have the potential, and they want to have you to develop that potential. Just because you're going to the NBA or going to be drafted does not mean you're not going to be expected to be a starter. Very rarely. You're not expected to come in and be an all-star. Hell, it's to be developed. And if they think that you're someone that they can develop into talent for them, then by all means, yeah. Looking at a list here for top 10 players to enter the transfer portal on Wednesday. Number 2 on that list, Jalen Blackman. I'm surprised to see him that high. But you know what? He's up above guys from JMU and from St. Mary's College and Virginia Tech, from Colorado. So, got to look at that. Let's see. We've got to take a break. We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you so much for being with us. Later in the program, we've got Tyler Smith from thehoosier.com. We're going to get you up to date on the transfer portal. Chris Denari from the Pacers as well. Plenty more to get to. Here on this Thursday, back with it right after this. Brought to you by Chop Shop, and I was there, stopped by there yesterday, and they have daily specials. Yesterday was fried chicken special, and I had gone in there with the full intention of taking home the ribeye sandwich, which is probably my favorite thing there now. But I saw this plate of this big old thing of fried chicken come out with two sides, and I'm like, whoa, what do we got here? And it was yesterday's special, and I'm like going, oh, I gotta have me some of that. And boy, was I glad I did. It was spectacular. $12.99 for a half a chicken and two sides. So it doesn't matter if you live in Bloomington or live around or going through, coming to games. Chop Shop, Market Table, not only do they have incredible food and specials, but they also have a customized bakery, deli, and butcher. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're looking for a home,
I've got that Signetti sound, if you want to reference it, that you mentioned yesterday. But you don't have to, but it is available. I'm going to step out for a second. I'll be right back. All right. All right, 30 seconds.
Selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Thursday. Thank you so much for being with us. Brought to you by Cheryl Sizemore, Remaxability. For those in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl's 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference between getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her at Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Man, lots of action going on with the transfer portal. Wide open, Indiana casting a very, very wide net this season as opposed to last year. Mike Woodson obviously heard rumblings. There's no way that you can say he hasn't. See? Very, very dramatic music as
I know. See, I hate when I forget that I didn't remove myself from the stream, but I guess it was a little fitting right there, wasn't it?
Yeah, it could have been. I would have gone on with it. Trust me. I would have rolled with it. I would have gotten into the dramatic voice sound.
At least the timing worked out.
But it's just like, go back to when he was getting just pounded by in the media by the fact that he was doing this ridiculous hockey line substitution patterns. And that's how I've always done it, and yada, yada. And the results on the court be damned. It's how he's always done it. It doesn't matter that it probably cost them multiple games, including and possibly the Auburn game in which Indiana had gotten out to a great start. And then, of course, he brings his second unit in, and they give it all back. And you know what his response was? Well, we had a 12-point lead, and when the starters got back in, we was tied. So, everything was all good. No, it wasn't. You gave up a 12-point lead. It doesn't. But then all of a sudden that went away. I forgot also the reasoning, well, I can't play these guys 40 minutes a game. Then all of a sudden you had guys playing 36, 7, 8 minutes a game. Funny how things change without things changing. So that was kind of funny. And now, last year, eggs and all the eggs in one basket recruiting style. A miserable failure for Indiana and Mike Woodson. This year, let's offer everybody, which is fine. They're casting as wide a net as possible, sometimes a little too wide. I have some of the numbers for a few of these guys. I'm like, what the hell? Guy shot 28% from behind the arc last year. Why are you offering him? But regardless, Connor Hickman expected to visit yesterday. The gentleman we were just talking about a second ago, Bryson Tucker, a visit. Indiana feels good about that situation. And as I said, that would kind of fill the Liam McNeely spot. So for a guy that's still uncommitted, I would say Indiana's probably in a pretty good spot there. And would not be surprised to see them do well with him. I think they're going to do much better in the portal this year. They don't have a choice but to do much better. And they're making it's a completely different strategy this time because of the abysmal failure of last year. So for those reasons, I think that they will do much, much better. But for all of the teams, I know Indiana fans want Indiana to do well. But here's what happens. Does Indiana get Mike Davis? And what I mean by that is back in the day, Mike Davis was not exactly the biggest want by anyone. There was not a school in the country that was looking to hire him, but yet Indiana made him the head coach at Indiana to follow Bob Knight, no less. Now, part of that was based on a threatened player boycott, whatnot. But guess what? If you want to talk about the genesis of Indiana's issues, it started right there. It started because, well, it started with the administration. First of all, they took down a king in Bob Knight. And I'm not saying that in ignoring all some other things, but he was still a king in the sport of basketball coaching. When you take down a king, you better have a plan, a succession plan, not a guessing game afterwards. And not a guessing game in which you're going to be bullied into making a decision, which is exactly what happened to Indiana. And ever since then, it has been mistake after mistake after mistake, with the exception of Tom Crean. He did a great job resurrecting Indiana's program from the bottom up, no less. He took a program that had been decimated and within 5 years had them ranked number 1 in the country and back up to winning a Big Ten title. Probably stayed a little too long. Things went south. That's fine. But then they got back to bad decisions, which is what has been a constant problem. The genesis of that is having people in positions making those decisions that don't have any business making that decision. John talked about Louisville's athletics director, because I brought up the fact of there are certain people that have the ability to make these hires, like the AD, but yet how much experience do they have in making these types of hires? How much experience do they have in evaluating these guys? How far ahead are they when you don't use a search firm? Had Louisville used a search firm, they probably would have known that. And John, is this still true that that Church from Indiana State had already signed to become St. Louis coach?
That's I mean, unless that was thrown out there to throw people off of a course, but to my knowledge, that is a very true statement that Josh Schertz was offered the Louisville job after he signed a contract with St. Louis. I don't know if that's official information, but it is public information, if that makes sense. And when I say that, I don't know if St. Louis has announced him as head coach, which he wouldn't, because if he's still coaching the NIT, they're going to keep that under wraps until that's finished.
Yeah, we'll see. I find that that is a horrible look as an AD. You look like an absolute moron. An absolute moron.
That was another big talking point before the announcement of Pat Kelsey yesterday.
That's layered on
Louisville's athletic director and his ability.
Well, you should, because you layer that on top of the fact of you were this close to having Dusty May, and then Michigan flips him at the last second. Rare is it that you hear that someone's been able to flip a coach. That's players, yes. But rare is it that you hear a coach has been able to be flipped.
It won't be framed like this, but if everyone was forced to be as honest as they, as honest as they could be, then Josh Hurd today, which is Louisville's athletic director, whenever he announces Pat Kelsey, he'd say, we didn't get our first choice, we didn't get our second choice, nor do we get our third choice. But introducing our fourth choice, Pat Kelsey. I mean, obviously he's not going to say that, but that'd be something, wouldn't it?
So the press conference is today?
It is this afternoon. Yes, he will be announced.
Are the chairs set back up?
That would
Rick
be.
said,
I'd take a guess that even if they are set up, that they're not going to take a photo of them.
that Rick went and took that photo himself.
Oh yeah,
yeah. That was not something that Louisville took.
Well, I'm sure he won't take it either, though. But fun fact: last time, I don't know if it's last time. So at one of his previous jobs, Pat Kelsey, 25 minutes before his opening press conference, he backed out. I don't know if it was at Winthrop or if it was at Charleston. I believe it was at Winthrop, which is where he was before.
Are you kidding me?
I wish I don't have the logistics of how it went down in front of me. I promise I'm not making this up. If you want to look it up, especially those listening, feel free to. But Pat Kelsey, at a previous stop before accepting, he backed out of the press conference less than 30 minutes before it was supposed to happen. I'm not saying that's going to happen today at Louisville, but I mean, all the nonsense that's been going on.
But wait a minute, was there not a contract signed?
I believe, if I remember correctly, again, I'm trying to find the logistics of it in front of me, but I believe he took a different job after he was going to take a previous job, and so they were able to, I guess, buy him out of whatever contract he previously signed. Kind of similar to the Josh Schertz thing that we just talked about.
Yeah, and there's been cases where coaches have taken jobs. And I mean, announcing that they have
Chris Beard
accepted
did it,
and then bolted for someplace else.
Here we go. Here's the logistics that I was trying to say. In 2017, Pat Kelsey was hired as the head coach in Massachusetts, but returned to Winthrop 2 days after accepting the position, citing personal reasons. Kelsey informed UMass athletic director Ryan Bamford of his decision 25 minutes before the scheduled press conference to formally introduce Kelsey to the press and university community.
That's just how things go.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do? I mean, those are big life decisions. I get it. But man, yeah, it's just wild how some of that stuff happens. Who's coming to Indiana? Well, that's still a question mark, but I'm gonna put my money on Bryson Tucker as one that will come to Indiana, the All-American McDonald's All-American wing 2024. I'll put my money on him as being a Hoosier for you guys up next. And then I don't know if they'll bring on any other 2024 recruits to fill those 6 spots, or they will just simply go into the portal. Indiana has no margin for error. They have no margin for development right now. They need to giddy up and go. For Mike Woodson needs to giddy up and go, or he is going to giddy up and go after next season. We've got to take a break. Lots more coming up in the next hour. Tyler Smith joins us from thehoosier.com, and we will talk about who might be coming to play for Indiana next.
No, back with more. All right.
Back with more after this, brought to you by Cheryl Sizemore and Remax Realty. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market. Once I stopped, I was like, oh, do I?
Well, I sat there. I didn't know if you were just pausing or what.
Yeah, I knew. I knew,
like,
but then I thought as soon as I start talking, I'm gonna override it. But it's crazy.
Okay. I'd rather you do that than that means it's on me.
Oh man. Holy moly. So we went from having
We lost 2 of 4 guests today. That's what you're asking.
gee whiz. Oh. Oh, Mamma Mia.
Here's Tyler. Good morning.
Morning.
What's happening? Oh, shoot.
All right, 30 seconds.
Better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by Hoosier Hanks East. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday. Tyler Smith from thehoosier.com joined us, and he has been busy keeping track of and following the comings and goings of the transfer portal as Indiana has been casting a wide net of multiple players to fill multiple positions in multiple spots, as I've said. Tyler, I expect, I've said earlier before you joined us, Bryson Tucker, the 2024 McDonald's All-American wing, who was on an official visit yesterday. I think that went very well, and Indiana feels it's in a very, very good position there to fill that Liam McNeely spot pretty much.
Yeah, that would be huge. I think it's got to be the top target at this point. I mean, on campus this week, 5-star recruit. I think the Hoosiers would obviously prefer to not get shut out completely in the 24 class. Obviously, they're going to get a lot of guys from the portal, but if they can get a player or two from that class, it's going to be big. But he's a big wing that can do a lot of things, and he would absolutely change the narrative quickly of the offseason. And I feel like if they could land him in the near future, you know, that could open up things. You know, the roster could start to take shape, and some other guys would probably want to come play with them. And, you know, there's a lot of possibilities that could come there. And as you said, replacing that that spot that was lost by McNeely.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the one thing, how is a 2024 guy that good still available, uncommitted is surprising, but he would be a good replacement. And I agree with you. That could become kind of the Kickstarter. I think that Indiana rather fills the remaining 6 spots with transfer guys just because of the experience. Mike Woodson knows he has to win now. And to win now, you need experience and talent. And obviously, it's a lot easier to get experience and talent from somebody who already has it than a guy that you're looking to develop it from. But it doesn't appear that Tucker is much of a risk. I mean, he's a big guy, very talented. It would be filling one spot for another. And but there are several other guys that Indiana has looked at, and a lot of guys with Indiana connections for the Hoosier fans that really looking forward to that. Guys like Connor Hickman, who is expected to take a visit today.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool to see the Indiana connections. You know, Tony Perkins is another big one. I'm not sure if you saw this, but Indiana wide receiver Donovan McCulley posted the eye emojis when Perkins became available. So I don't know if there's any connection there, if he was just kind of interested in that. But
did Donovan McCulley go to Lawrence North? I think
it might have been.
So that's probably what that was.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. And you know, a lot of the Indiana guys and some Bloomington natives, and you know, the Hoosiers obviously trying to fill a lot of positions and get some shooters, and so you know, those are a couple names up there. So I think right now between Tucker and Perkins, those are probably the two names that are on everyone's radar the most, you know, as we speak here on Thursday. So be interested to see.
Who is the all-out pure point guard that Indiana is seeking that they need? They have to have someone who is just a pure point guard. And I know a lot of these guys are kind of combo guards, but they need somebody that's going to take that role, take the reins, take the steering wheel for this team.
Yeah, I don't know how involved they're going to get. Malik Mack, you know, I think I saw that Georgetown might be in the lead to get him. You and I saw him dominate the Hoosiers at Gamebridge this year, and we both kind of agreed, like, it'd be nice to have one of those, you know, kind of deals. And it's been interesting too when he hit the portal. There's a lot of IU fans that thought that it meant Malik Renew and Mackenzie Mbako, because Malik Mack, and they're like, you know, these two guys are hitting the portal, but no, obviously the guy from Harvard. But he's a guy that, you know, 17, 5, and 4 a game, and his shooting splits don't jump out the page at you. It's because he had to do so much. He had to create almost everything for that offense. I feel like if he's on a better team, he could explode, but don't know if that'll be Indiana or not. I was pretty interested in Dayton Albury from Queens. You know, he's got really good numbers. Didn't shoot a ton of threes, but has good shooting splits. And, you know, a lot of these guys, you know, it's not always easy to tell based on their conference and where they're playing, but a lot of them have, you know, numbers across the board. They're not one-trick ponies. They have, you know, they stuff the stat sheet, and they're guys that can really got it done where they were. So how that translates, you know, that's the tricky part. But yeah, Indiana really needs to fill that point guard position.
Yeah, and you know, talk about Tucker as a wing. He's 6'6". He could slide over to the 2. He's kind of a 2-3 hybrid, depending on what you have your personnel current on the team. But because you never know, Indiana could end up with another wing out of the portal and are able to use him at the 2 spot. And if you've got a guy at the 2 spot that can consistently hit the outside shot, changes things for Indiana.
Absolutely. Plenty of other names as well. There's one guy that I haven't seen him talked about much in IU circles, but Zeke Mayo, South Dakota State. He's a wing, you know, 19 points, 6 boards, 4 assists. If Indiana doesn't land him, they need a guy like him that can do a little bit everything and be a bucket getter. And my thing too is I think Indiana at this point, with so many spots available, they should just be trying to find the best talent possible instead of, you know, trying to fill each position and each starting spot. You just got to bring in as much talent as possible, let the chips fall where they may, you know, once you start playing together. Easier said than done, but I say go out and get the most talent you can get, and a guy like Mayo, I think, would be a good fit.
Well, absolutely. Getting talent is something is the highest priority for this program. They have to have a deep bench this year. They did not have that. it was for a second year in a row. We keep going into the Indiana seasons. We keep hearing how deep the bench is. That has not been the case. They just weren't. They did not have that depth. I know Xavier got hurt, but that's where the lack of depth came in. When that happened, they were screwed for the rest of the season, basically, because they did not have anybody that could step into his shoes and fill that spot. And so not only do you have to have a leading point guard, I don't know that Gabe Cupps will be ready to be that guy to step into that role in case, foul trouble, injury, whatever the case may be. You have to have a guy that can step into that role, and not necessarily a guy like Trey Galloway. I think you have to have two dynamic point guards, and I do not consider Trey Galloway a dynamic point guard, and from last season, don't consider Gabe Cupps a dynamic point guard from a scoring standpoint either. So landing two of those, I think, is paramount.
Yeah, or at least if you do bring in a Perkins type, a guy that can handle the one as, in a pinch and those kind of things. But obviously, the ideal situation, you bring in several, and hopefully, this team goes into next or summer and fall where fans are talking about like the discussion around the team will be who in the world is going to start and play the most minutes, because we got so many guys in here that are solid, and you got some new guys and you got some veterans that stayed. Will they continue starting or will they come off the bench? Hopefully that's kind of the narrative around the team, where they do not only appear but actually are deep heading into the next season, because they're going to need that.
Any other guys up on the radar that we haven't seen or heard of yet?
Well, we've got, I think there's over 20 names. And again, I said this last week, but a lot of guys that Indiana has probably reached out to that we've not heard yet, that we will. There's also still some guys that are going to hit the portal. So hopefully Indiana can strike. They can kind of circle some of their targets and get some early targets. I think it'd be huge for them to get a guy or two here pretty soon, because again, if you make the decision to not play in the NIT because you want to focus on the portal, it would be really nice for the program to start landing some guys while the NIT is still going on. But another thing that's interesting is the net that they're casting is pretty much the guards. They got a few forwards in there. There's really only one center. I'm kind of interested, though, because Woodson talked about wanting a rim protector to come in to replace Ware, and the guy from Drexel, Amari Williams, he would be that. He got almost 2 blocks a game and pretty decent numbers. Like, I've told this to fans in the message boards too, that I feel like ideal situation, if Mbako comes back, I would love to see Renew at the 5, Mbako at the 4, 3 dynamic wings all playing together. But you got to have some depth. You got to have some bigs, especially with Renew getting in foul trouble. So maybe a guy like Williams that could come in and come off the bench and provide that rim protection, and you kind of mix and match when the matchups are fit for that. So he's really one of only maybe a handful, maybe a few names that they've looked at as far as the 5 so far. So the net they're casting has been from the wing perspective, as it should be.
And some of these guys would be it would be kind of funny, because Tony Perkins, Connor Hickman, guys that are from Indiana that somehow got away from Indiana, went to other schools, and but could yet wind up here to play for the Hoosiers.
Yeah, it'd be huge. I think it couldn't hurt with restoring a little bit as well as what has been kind of broken this past year. It would help a portion of the fan base that's upset. I mean, obviously it's not about, doing things for the fan base. It's about winning, but these are some good ball players as well. But to get some momentum back and to get some Indiana guys in there would be a pretty cool thing. And, one thing you mentioned earlier, I was wondering about Bryson Tucker, not the Indiana kid, but Bryson Tucker deciding this late. Do you think that's something that could happen more often now because of the portal, because of so many coaching and player movement? Do you think more and more guys may wait until March to make their decision. That could be interesting.
Well, Jamie says, asked the same thing, and his question is almost exactly verbatim that. Don't you think we may start to see more high schoolers hold out longer? My guess is yes, NIL bidding wars. I definitely think you will see some of that. Some guys are going to do it for that reason. Other guys know where they want to go, and they're going to make their decision because they won. They don't want to deal with it anymore because it's a hassle. Some guys dig it. Some guys like the attention, relish in that spotlight, and some guys don't. So I think the guys that relish the spotlight will hold out longer, and there will be some that have multiple offers coming at them might do that very, very thing because it is as hard as it is to say. It's becoming a business for these guys coming out of high school, and it is maddening to think that a 17-year-old has to think about his college decision now as a business decision instead of an education and an athletic decision. It is now as much or more a business decision for these guys.
Yeah, and then that decision happens every year too. It's like everybody's on a 1-year contract instead of, I'm locked in for X amount of years. It's at the end of every season, I've got to decide, and am I going to put out a statement that I am returning to the program that I signed up for, or, am I moving elsewhere? So it's definitely interesting. 2 other names real quick to mention when it comes to shooters. If Indiana could really get involved with these guys, Cade Tyson from Belmont, Jordan Sears, UT Martin, both guys well over 40% from 3. So I know that they're looking for athletic, dynamic wings. My hope, though, for this program is they don't just bring in one knockdown shooter and say the other guys are capable. Hopefully it's multiple knockdown guys that you're not just relying on, the one who can really light it up and the others can, occasionally hit the 3 like most of this year's team. Hopefully they bring in at least a few of the guys who are, you see a 4 in front of that 3-point percentage.
I agree. For Indiana to be successful, that has to happen because that has been a problem. They have relied on one guy to fill that role every year, whether it's been Miller Kopp or Trace Jackson Davis or Xavier Johnson. It's been one guy in those positions, and when they were either not productive or not available, whatever the case, Indiana has had nothing to fill and go with. So you've got to have double of everything. That's the difference between winning and losing. You're going to have games where guys get in foul trouble. You're going to have games where guys are not available health-wise. You're going to have games where guys are not on. There's just multiple reasons why you have to have different personnel that can fill the same role. Indiana has not had that, and it has proven to be an Achilles heel for a while now. So what's up next in recruiting?
Well, it seems like all day, every day, there's going to be so many things that come out and so much news. Would love for fans to join us on the Hoosier.com message boards because a lot of knowledgeable fans and a lot of back and forth banter and insight. And obviously the tracker is up and available. So hopefully some good news soon in terms of some decisions made, because when you've got at least 7 spots to fill, you want to fill a couple of those and start to be able to kind of make a framework for the rest of your roster. So,
yeah, and the Ja'Kai Newton, that's a name that we kind of forget about because he's not been able to play because of injury for Indiana. Will he be able to next year? Will he be able to produce and contribute in a meaningful manner? That's also going to be a big impact because otherwise you've got another empty hole, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a good player. So to me, it's all about health. And obviously when you've been away from the game for a bit to try to not only get healthy, but then kind of get it all back. If he is 100%, that's a top 100 kind of type guard from a year ago. So that could be a great piece. But like that comment said, it's not something they should rely on as far as, starting or being 6-man. It's kind of be more of a depth piece. And, yeah, I'm glad he is staying, and hopefully he can get healthy.
Yep, and if Mike Woodson can pull this off, he will certainly get a lot of the naysayers off of his back, and that would please Hoosier Nation, would make them nothing happier. I think they just want to win.
Yep,
and that's it, man. Winning cures everything. Tyler Smith from thehoosier.com. Make sure you give him a follow. Go to thehoosier.com. Keep up on what's going on and join in on the conversation as well, like he said. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hey, we've got more coming up here. Chris Denari from the Pacers set to join us. Brought to you by Hoosier Hanks East. I was over there for lunch, man, the other day. I'm into their salads. They've got great pizzas, but even their salads are amazing. But we've got much more coming up. Back with it right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Formerly holy moly.
Here's Chris. Good morning.
Good morning, guys.
How are you, brother?
After that long trip.
Welcome back to the Friendly Confines.
Yep. Yeah.
How you doing? How was it?
Seemed longer than 9 days, let me tell you. But, I mean, and last night, of course, got whipped by the Bulls. But if you would have told me you would go on the road and win 3 out of 5, you'd take it any day. So, John, Pat Kelsey down in Louisville.
Yeah, what about him?
I like him. I mean, I remember when he played at Xavier many, many years ago.
That Louisville, that has been just so funny.
I mean, just following it, following Bozic and Eric Crawford.
Well, Rick's on with us each Wednesday.
Uh-huh.
And we were both really on that Dusty May to Louisville.
Right.
We were both in Indianapolis. No, or he wasn't up there. It was some other guys, but I was chatting with him. But that was as close to being a done deal.
What do you think happened?
He got flipped. Michigan is just, for one thing, I think the Big Ten over the ACC, because the ACC is in kind of a wonky position. You've got two schools that are suing the conference right now, and the conference suing them back. So that's not great. But they had the chairs set up for the press conference.
Yeah. Wow.
And not only that, I had someone, and I have not confirmed this, but I had somebody yesterday tell me that I had actually printed posters.
Right, here we go. 10 seconds.
PR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday, joined now by our good friend Chris Denari, who just got back from a trip around the world. Actually, it's not really, it just seems like it, a 9-day road trip, which probably seemed like a trip around the world.
It did. It started in Detroit and ended last night in Chicago with trips to San Francisco and Los Angeles in between. So, it did seem like it was a lot longer. Probably felt like that last night after the Pacers got whipped by the Bulls. But if you would have told me before the road trip started, you'd go out west, 3 of the games would be at Golden State, at Clippers, at Lakers, and you'd win 3 of the 5, I think you'd take it any day. I just thought the team looked very tired last night, and Chicago knew it. They knew the Pacers were on the 5th game of a 5-game road trip, and after playing so well and shooting the ball so well in LA against the Clippers when they shot 61% from 3 and 58% from the field, last night they had their worst offensive performance of the year. First time that the Pacers had scored below 100 points all year long. And they shot 40% from the field and 31% from 3. So you put those numbers together, you're not going to win. But again, I'd still say all in all, good road trip. You still are in 6th in the Eastern Conference. You've got a 1-game lead on Miami, a 1.5-game lead over Philadelphia. You've got 8 games to play with 5 of those at home. And the only road trips you have left are 3 one-offs. At Brooklyn, come home. At Cleveland, come home. At Toronto, come home. So it's set up for the Pacers. They control their own destiny, and hopefully they can take care of business.
Absolutely. It is getting to be that time of year, but they're holding steadfast at the number 6 spot in the Eastern Conference, which does one good thing. It keeps you off of playing the Celtics in that first round, baby.
Yeah, it keeps you out, and it also keeps you out of the play-in tournament, which the Pacers, the very first year of the play-in tournament, I guess maybe year 2, the first year was down in the bubble in Orlando where I think they had 8 play 9. But, yeah, you're guaranteed a playoff spot at 6. Right now, the number 3 team is the Knicks. They passed Cleveland last night. But, yeah, I mean, the Celtics by far and away are the best team in the Eastern Conference, maybe the best team in the entire league. And if you can stay away from a 1-8 matchup, that's exactly what you want to do.
Absolutely. What is up next for the Pacers that they need to finish the season strong in a way that can send them into the playoffs on a solid note with Tyrese playing well and this team playing like they were kind of right before the All-Star break.
Yeah, no question. Lakers tomorrow night. So you get the Lakers for the second time in a 6-day period, and they're playing well right now. I mean, they beat the Pacers on Sunday in a wild game. It was 150-145. And then they've won 2 games to start their road trip. They beat Milwaukee on Tuesday night without LeBron. And then last night they won in Memphis. And so they'll be at Gainbridge Fieldhouse tomorrow night. The Pacers then have a couple of days off, which, is going to be nice just to have that extra day off between games for all of us. Brooklyn is back on Monday and then go to Brooklyn next Wednesday. So it's a home and home with Brooklyn. And then it's Oklahoma City and Miami the following weekend on Friday and Sunday. And that game with Miami is huge because that series is tied at 1-1. And whoever wins that game will own the tiebreaker. And the tiebreaker is going to be very important because the records are all so close, right? So, if you can have a good week coming in off this road trip, if you could win the next 4 or 3 of the next 4, you're probably going to put yourself in pretty good position to lock down that 6th position. And that's what the Pacers are looking at. Can you get to 5? Maybe. But I think your focus is in making sure you can have the 6th spot in the playoffs. That means you'll play the number 3 seed in the first round.
How's Tyrese been playing overall since, he went through that, I hate to call it a slump, but kind of a mini slump out of the All-Star game?
Yeah, I think until last night, I mean, he did not have a good night, but nobody had a good night last night. In the first 4 games of the road trip, he averaged 20 points, 10 assists, and he was 13 of 26 from 3. So that's 50%. Played very well against the Clippers. Even last night, he hit his first 2 threes. But then I thought wore down as the game went on, just as his teammates did. So he had a much better road trip than he had prior to leaving on that road trip. I think he went 13 of 26 in those 4 games, the first 4 games of the road trip, Jim. He was 3 for 24 in the 4 previous games. So his shot came back, his overall game came back, and that was good to see.
Absolutely. And so now they get to come home for a minute, and that's always a welcome relief when you're, especially on the heels of a 9-day
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the odder ones that I think in my 18 years that we've had, from the standpoint that, you started in the East, then you played the Pacific time zone, and then you came back and finished in the Central time zone. So it was 5 games in 3 different time zones. And, at some point that's going to take your toll. I mean, hey, I just call games, I just talk. And, I was feeling it at the end of the road trip. These guys have to go out and play. So, there's no question they wanted to win the game. They just didn't have the juice last night that you needed, and give Chicago a lot of credit. They're a better team in my book than their record. It's sort of strange to say, but they're 35-38. They're hovering around 500. I mean, they've got DeMar DeRozan, Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu, Vucevic. I mean, they've got a lot of talent. They just have been very inconsistent. A lot of people will say, well, gee, the Pacers have been inconsistent. Well, they're 41-33. I mean, they're still 8 games over 500 with 8 to play. So, I think all in all, it's been a good year. It can even be a better year if you can make some noise in the playoffs.
Absolutely. And speaking of playoffs, have you been watching? Did you get a chance to catch any of the NCAA games over the first and second rounds?
Yeah, I mean, no question. I know, following the games here in Indianapolis with Purdue playing so well. They've got a good one, a tough one tomorrow night with Gonzaga. But, yeah, I mean, it's been fun to watch. Been fun to watch Terry Morin's IU women. I've known Terry for a long time, so I'm hopeful. She's got a tough matchup in the next round against South Carolina. So, it's just a great time of year for basketball. And then you have high school basketball had to take a week off because of the first and second rounds. And so the state finals will be at Gainbridge Fieldhouse on Saturday. So I've always said March is a great month, and in the NBA, we've got very impactful games that are very important to what's happening toward the playoffs in April, May, and June. So if you love basketball right now, now's the time to be a fan.
Absolutely. And nobody better to ask than you. Zach Edey and his NBA prospects. I think obviously there's probably a place for him, but it is not going to be like it has been in college. This is a step up, and against guys who are the elite of the elite, the most athletic of the athletic. And my thing about Zach Edey is he doesn't have a set skill that is really driving him. It's mainly his size. And I've taken a lot of grief over that, but I'm like, that just having that doesn't make a great basketball player to me, because I know that the league has become a much more athletic league, and the center spot, I'm not saying it's gone away, but it has really changed to a hybrid type of position where your center could be a guy getting knocked down threes out there. And those type of guys are the ones that are going to be dragging Edey out onto the perimeter and around. And I have my doubts that he's going to be able to keep up with those type of guys.
Yeah, I think there's a place for him, but you're right. The game has changed a lot. I mean, look at the Pacers center, Miles Turner. He's a mobile center who shoots threes. Look at Bam Adebayo in Miami, a big player, but very mobile, can handle the ball. The other night in L.A., you're playing Ivica Zubac, who's big at about 7 foot, and he rebounds and scores. But they literally took him out of the game and did not put in Daniel Tice or Mason Plumlee. So they had 3 7-footers sitting on the bench, and basically the Clippers went with basically a 5-guard offense or a 5-out offense because Indiana was it was tough for them to guard Indiana. Plus, they wanted to be able to switch at all 5 positions. I mean, that's what you see from a defensive end, is that may be more where it's going to be more difficult for Zach Edey than the offensive end. I still think there can be a place for him in segments of the game where he can be effective. But opposing coaches will try to take advantage of him from a defensive end, pulling him out. He cannot stand in the lane. In the NBA, there's a 3-second rule for defense as well as offense. You have to be moving out of the lane. Now, you can play a zone defense in the NBA, but it's a lot different than what you see in college basketball. The other thing I'll say is look at a player that the Pacers have on their two-way roster right now, and I really like him, and I think down the road he can help. But Oscar Tshiebwe from Kentucky was college basketball's player of the year 2 years ago, and he doesn't have a definite role in the NBA. Now, we've seen Oscar play a few times, and I think as he grows with the game and he becomes, a better perimeter offensive player, I think there's a spot for Oscar. I mean, the other night in the G League, Jim, he had like 26 points and 28 rebounds. So there is definitely a role in the NBA or professional basketball for Zach Edey, but you're probably going to have to be with the right coach, and they're going to have to define it or work on that. And I do think he's got, I think his skill set, I mean, he shoots the ball well. He's got a nice coaches will say, if you look at somebody's free throw, you can tell what kind of shooter they are. And I think he shoots the ball great for a big guy. So, it's probably not going to happen right away, but I have to believe he has a pretty good work ethic that he's going to give it everything he has. And with the right franchise, and it can happen. I mean, a lot of people didn't know what Trace Jackson Davis could be, coming out of IU. And, he's done a really, really good job at Golden State. He's with the right team, surrounded by the right kind of players. So, I think a lot of it just depends on that. Because you see, I mean, Jim, Tyler Hansbrough was one of the all-time great college basketball players. He played in the NBA for 6 or 7 years, but he did not have the type of career that he had when he was in college. We'll just have to wait and see. I mean, there will be a lot of answers to questions over the next 5 years for Zach Edey.
Absolutely. And I agree. He is a good free throw shooter, but you don't see him do anything from 4 feet and out. Everything he does is around the rim from an offensive standpoint. And it's mainly because he can catch the ball, turn, and put the ball in the basket without just going on his tippy toes. And that'll work in college. But I think when you get to the NBA, you've got guys these are men. Some of these guys are 10-year vets. And they know how to deal with it. So it'll be interesting to see. But what's up next for you, sir?
Yep, Lakers tomorrow. Then the weekend off as far as games are concerned. And then a game on Monday against Brooklyn. So just nice to be home. I think I got home 2 o'clock last night or whatever time. I mean, we're used to that. I mean, that's sort of life in the NBA, getting back in the middle of the night. So it'll be good to have a day to just decompress. I'll begin preparation tonight for tomorrow. By the way, I just thought I'd throw you a stat, and it's a pretty good one. Tomorrow night will be my 2000th broadcast of either an Indiana Pacer or an Indiana Fever game. So tomorrow night's my 2000th game for Pacer Sports and Entertainment doing play-by-play. So it's sort of hard for me to believe there's been that many, but pretty cool that tomorrow night against the Lakers, it's number 2000.
Congratulations, sir. We are not worthy. Between you and Don Fisher, we have 2 of the best all-time play-by-play guys in the game of basketball. And I don't know how many games Don has done either, but combining that with yours, it's amazing. And we are so grateful and fortunate to have you to join us.
Well, I'll leave you with one thing. My wife would tell you, yeah, but he has all 2,000 of those score sheets too. So,
oh my, where do you keep those, man?
I have a file drawer that I keep like the last couple of years because I may go back to use them, and then I have them by year down in our storage room in the basement in these like plastic containers. I have all my Fever ones. I have all my Butler ones. I have all my state finals. Why? I don't know. My wife is.
I was getting ready to ask, what spurred you to keep them from day one?
I don't know. I just kept.
I think it's a cool thing.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. And somebody would say, "Hey, you're a hoarder." Hey, they're very neatly arranged.
That's amazing. Well, man, congratulations again. We are so fortunate to have you, and so are the Pacers and the Pacer fans. Lucky to have you. So thank you, sir, so much. We appreciate you, my friend.
All right, thanks, Jim. Talk to you next week.
Absolutely. The great Chris Denari joining us, and next he'll be doing his 2001st broadcast when you hear him as the Pacers take on the Lakers. We've got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We'll do it right after this. Brought to you by our good friends at Reynolds Family Dentistry. You need that championship smile? Go see our good friend Dr. J. They're down in Sellersburg. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market.
All right.
I'm hungry. Whenever, I can't remember when it is expected to happen, but that will be our next milestone is 2,000 broadcasts.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
When was that? We hit 1,500?
It was back at the fall, October.
Back in October, wasn't it?
Something like that, yeah.
I got to figure out. I can't remember when 2,000 will come. That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I bet you don't work with anybody else that has 2,000 broadcasts. Except for...
I would beg differ. I think almost everybody
definitely has probably 10,000 maybe.
I'd say almost everybody I work. Even Nick, who's mid-30s, he's been doing his show for 8 years.
Oh, has he? I didn't realize he'd been on that long. Man, I am hungry all of a sudden. I can't believe that.
All right, here we go.
Steak or a grouper filet and enjoy it cooked to perfection in Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by the Ugly Grouper. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here on this Thursday. Appreciate you being with us. As always, NCAA action returns tonight. Of course, we'll be talking about those results tomorrow. Bob Kravitz joins us from bobkravitz.com. Kyle Macy will join us. currently with Westwood One Radio Network doing NCAA basketball. Of course, from Peru, Indiana, originally played for Kentucky, won a national title back in 1978. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star will be with us. Casey Bartley from Boiler Upload is Purdue. Will play. They play Friday, so their next run continues as they take on a Gonzaga team. I'm looking forward to watching that game. Now we should have some good games. I mean, especially with the big upset teams for the most part have been, I don't want to say weeded out. I hate to use that term because they deserve to get where they got to. Also, JD Campbell joining us tomorrow because I want to talk about, did you see yesterday the NCAA wants to ban prop betting? And we'll talk a lot more about this with JD, but he is very informed with it. Look, I got to see JD up in Indianapolis last weekend. He was now former media relations director for Indiana men's basketball, amongst other places, but that was where he semi-retired from, I guess you'd say. But he is always up to date on what's going on. And I agree with the ban on prop betting. Right now, there is a case that's being looked at in the NCAA or in the NBA rather. I forget who the player is. I think he plays for Memphis. A prop bet hit on him the other night for, I think it was over and under on 3 points. 3-point shots made by this particular player, and he came out early, and for whatever reason, this was flagged by the deal that flags this stuff, which I said yesterday, that has amazed me. They're on it. They get on that stuff. But with all of these different types of bets, it has to be harder to track them all. And especially if you can do it from different places, which you got the Ohtani thing going on with betting. Where's that going to end up? Ironically, I happened to see Scott Rowland yesterday, the Hall of Fame baseball player, played for the Cardinals, won a World Series there, and played for the Reds as well. He was asking me, so what's going on with this Ohtani thing, Jim? I'm like, dude, I have no idea. I mean, other than what everybody else knows. That is that's big money, but the problem with that is, and someone was in the conversation there pointed out, Steve, that you're not allowed to pay for gambling debts in baseball. Even though I do not believe there was any betting on baseball in the Ohtani case, he ended up covering the bets for this guy. And did he know it was covering bets at the time? Did he not know? There's some misinformation coming. We don't know. And on top of it all, even though there was no betting on baseball, there's no crying in baseball. There is no betting in California. It's illegal. So it had to go through an illegal bookie of some type. But Charles Baker is the current president of the NCAA. My only fear, while I agree with this, the NCAA wins nothing. They lose every time they go to take on an issue. But apparently some states have already banned this. In, I think Maryland might be one of them. I don't know the entire list. But I agree wholeheartedly that, you know what? I didn't really like the fact that I was afraid that betting on college games would just open it up for a lot of fraud, but they have done a good job thus far, it seems, in keeping a handle on that. Kansas, Michigan, Louisiana, and Wyoming allow bettors to place prop bets on college athletes regardless of where they play. Several states, including Colorado, Arizona, Massachusetts, New York, Pennsylvania, and Oregon, have rules prohibiting prop bets on college athletes. That predates the NCAA's recent push. Others, such as Illinois, Connecticut, and Iowa, do not allow college athlete prop bets involving in-state teams. So it's different rules in different places. On top of that, there just needs to be a national rule, national law. And yet, no prop bets on college athletes, I say. But earlier this month, the company that used by many professional sports leagues and college conferences to monitor this flagged a Temple regular season men's basketball game for wagering irregularities. Again, I'm amazed that they're able to do this, that they are able to stay up with all the bets that go down. Just the amount of the bets that John puts down, I'm surprised they can keep up with it. That's a joke.
Oh yeah, me, the degenerate, local degenerate.
Yeah, I'm kidding. I mean, what do you bet? Like $20?
So I mean, once I'll make like maybe a $20 deposit. Like I guess I did back at the beginning of the year, and I've been riding off that deposit off small wins, the last part of the season, just because I make small bets.
Look at you go.
Gamble responsibly.
That's it. Absolutely. Only responsible parties here, baby. But yeah, it's just why Temple University said Friday it's going to review. Now this came out back in early March. So Temple said it's going to review reports that show at least one game involving its men's basketball team was flagged for unusual betting activity, while Loyola said it had removed a person from its basketball program after it became aware. And damn it, I had a commercial pop up and block my whatever. There we go. Became aware of a gambling violation. The separate investigations emerged within hours of each other and a little more than a week before the current NCAA tournament started. And in the midst of conference tournaments is when that happened. It was a stark reminder that legalized gambling is, it's tough to keep up on. But so we'll talk about that with JD tomorrow, and a few other things, because think about all of these changes that have happened within the last 4 to 5 years. First, you had COVID. Then you have the transfer portal. Then NIL. Legalized gambling on college athletics. All that happens at the same time. That is crazy. You're talking massive, monumental changes. Just one after another. Each one in and of itself was a massive change. But to have all of them just roll on top of each other has been incredible. So, games tonight. Who you got, John boy?
So you want my picks for all 4 games, or you want my betting picks? I guess I did my betting picks earlier. You just want me to pick who's going to win each game, don't you?
Whatever.
Let me pull up make sure I get all the matchups correctly again. I know Clemson and Arizona first. I think Arizona will win. But again, this is one that I'm not betting on because it's such a stay away from me, because Clemson's one of those teams that I didn't really have a lot of faith in going into the tournament, but they have proved me otherwise so far. And on the other side of things, Arizona, they tend to just be a team that they'll do enough in the tournament to kind of justify their season, but I don't feel like they ever make it to their goals of reaching a Final Four per se, kind of similar to Purdue, if I'm being honest. So that's a stay away for me. I do think Arizona will win, but it might be close. Excuse me. Had to cough for a second. And then after that, San Diego State and UConn. I think UConn will win handily, and that's not a knock on San Diego State. I just think UConn is really as good as they're propped up to be. They are 11.5-point favorites, and I think they will cover that spread fairly easily. But, I mean, crazier things have happened. Am I wrong?
No, you are not.
In the night leg of games, we've got Alabama and North Carolina. North Carolina 4.5-point favorites. I'm staying away from this game on the betting front as well, just because North Carolina, even though they're a 1 seed and they've been pretty dominant most of the season, they also have a lot of questionable losses. And when you're playing a team like Alabama, that is a streaky scoring type of team, if they get hot on the right night, like tonight, they could take down North Carolina. So I'm not predicting Alabama wins this game, but I think there is a chance for an upset here between the 4 and the 1 seed. And then finally, we've got number 3, Illinois, and number 2, Iowa State. As we've talked about, it's the battle between a high-powered offense in Illinois and a high-powered defense in Iowa State. The Cyclones are 1.5 favorites. I'm taking Illinois money line. And honestly, I'm basing this solely off of the, I guess, kind of the hot streak that Illinois is on. They've been playing really good basketball ever since the Big Ten tournament, and Terrence Shannon Jr. is making a case to be the player of the tournament. That's for sure. So I think that will continue tonight for Illinois. And those are my predictions for this evening.
But not bad. I'm looking forward to tomorrow's games. I have to be honest. They are going to be, I think, the best games of the 2 days. First of all, you've got what time is that game? Oh, it's after that, I guess. When does no, that game is over. Houston and Duke. First of all, it's a 1-4 game. That should be a good one to watch. Then you have Marquette. Who are they playing?
They have NC State, another team that's kind of.
Oh, that's what I thought. It has an X next to it, but it doesn't have a time. Is that?
That one is slated for 7:09, and these 09 times.
I don't know why they don't have a time on that. I don't know why they don't have a time on that one. But you also have Purdue Gonzaga at 7:39 tomorrow, which another great matchup that I'm looking forward. And then Creighton and Tennessee as the nightcap there, the 2 and the 3. So in that bracket alone, you've got 1, 2, 3, 5. That's pretty damn close to chalk, man.
It is.
On that side, then let me look up here. Now, the upper side,
you've got the same thing on today's games. You got 1,
yeah,
2,
you've
3,
got
4,
3-2 with Illinois and
6.
Iowa State, and the 1-5 in that bracket. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 5 in UConn's bracket, which was viewed as the toughest bracket. And then you've got 1, 2, 4, 6. So it's not off. It's not far off. Other than North Carolina State, they are the only outlier this year. And they've been on a freaking heater. I mean, they won the ACC tournament. They
played on the day of shame. They played on opening day of the ACC tournament.
And beat North Carolina to win the ACC tournament. So they are on an absolute heater. And they have a chance of continuing because Marquette is not exactly – if I'm looking at Iowa State is a 2 seed on the other side, I wouldn't want to play at Iowa State. I'd rather play Marquette, I think. Any other 2 seeds here? Arizona. Yeah, I think I'd still rather play. I'd rather play Arizona than Iowa State right now. And Tennessee. I think Tennessee's a better 2 seed. So North Carolina State has a chance to make it to the Elite 8. But this weekend is going to be just stacked with great basketball games. I'll be at the state finals on Saturday. So be up there trying to squeeze everything in at one time. Big thank you to Tyler Smith and Chris Denari for being able to get on with us today. We'll have Shannon Griffith back on with us next week. He was traveling and could not make it happen today. Tomorrow on the program, like I said, Bob Kravitz from bobkravitz.com. Kyle Macy joins us. Zach Osterman, Casey Bartley from Boiler Upload, and J.D. Campbell as a myriad of things to talk about, including tonight's NCAA action. Man, big thank you to John, the producer, for keeping us between the white lines, and most importantly, to each and every one of you. Appreciate you guys. Look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I'll see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.